That time on the program, I bring in my guest commentator. Joining me live in the studio is Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, who's the Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University here in Abuja. Good to see you and thanks for your time.
Pleasure, thanks for having me.
You know, quickly here, when you speak with, someone who's coasting to becoming a centenarian, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Time is never enough.
That's right.
And, especially
I have to
when,
be very careful.
and when you're not live with this person in the studio, that's just, you don't really know when to button. But again, overall, what are those things that stood out for you listening to Papa Edwin Clark? It's
very interesting, very emotional interview, no doubt. You're looking at a Nigerian. Each time I hear him, it reminds me of his opposite numbers in the West and the North, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, how God has blessed them with good health, and of course they are still contributing to the evolution of this country. They're not tired, they're elder statesmen par excellence, and they're still very concerned about the imperfections of the system. Just like he went ahead to highlight, as it concerns his own region. And, at 90, producing a book that obviously will look like a magnum opus on what he considers, the shortcomings of this country and probably providing solution. It simply means that it still has a lot to offer. And what more can we do other than to pray for this, for people of his age, for God and agitative mind, people of his set, for God to continue to grant them the good health, to live as long as possible so that they can continue impacting on the system, as the case could be.
Because you're an academic, you can better explain the rigors of putting a book at 96, 700 pages.
That's
but
right.
Again, there's something there again, and that's the support he's got for President Tinubu. And he says, he will still meet the president with these issues and table these things because they've been there too long. What do we expect of President Tinubu when Edwin Clark finally meets him on the day?
Well, first, on the book question, you can tell from the way he spoke that you can't fault him on the basis of cognition. He's still very much alert, You may say he's slightly slow, but he's still very much alert, remembers everything. And it shouldn't be difficult for that kind of a person to put down a book. How he did it might be a different thing, but of course that essentially his thoughts are what is in that book. And like I said, 700, like you said, for 700-page book is not a joke, and that's why it's referred to it as possibly his magnum opus. And there's no legacy that you can leave, for generations after you, other than documenting your thoughts, because it will outlive you for generations, unborn. And of course, it will contribute, no doubt, to enriching the knowledge base of the system that you are leaving behind, in the future. I will pray, like I said, that it should live for as long as possible, and perhaps in the near future, it might even want to do a sequel to the book. But back to the question on, I think by his status, if he wants to meet the president, it's not going to be a difficult thing any time. And from his pedigree, how frank he can be, he's not that person that will shy away from telling the president what his mind is. And his mind is about the plight of the Niger Delta people, which, of course, has been in the front burner over the years, which has also led to the creation of so many institutions, perhaps to attend to them, NDDC, Ministry of Niger Delta, amnesty, 13% derivation, and yet we're still talking about, the inadequacy of some of these institutions and organizations, like he expressly said. And of course, I'm happy again that he referred to the internal contradictions within that sphere, where funds, where questions can be asked around how funds are being administered, to personnel, to officials in that sector, whether or not they are judiciously using it, So those questions will continue, and maybe at some point the jury will be properly out on what the matter really is, But you will not deny the fact that the central government has tried over the years to give them attention, but the question still rages, Why should we continue to find a situation where resources meant for the people are not being appropriately applied? You might want to situate it within the general context of corruption, misappropriation of resources. But again, it's another question that will have to be answered. But no doubt, Chief Clark has raised some valid concerns, even around the distribution of positions in government. Oftentimes, we see these things emerging. But again, you can also explain it within the context of patronage that exists in our system, where once somebody from an ethnic group, religious group, is heading an institution, he probably cannot see beyond his own area. He becomes chronic and tends to patronize his people more than the others. That's the shame of this country, and that's what he's probably also referred to. It is not peculiar to any particular section. It's something that is general to the average Nigerian, average Nigerian public official, and that's why we're talking about seeing the system as a whole and not as a unit. The problem now is that we still see the system as a unit, leading to chronism, leading to nepotism. But it's high time we saw the system rather as a whole.
And again, he also agreed, so when I asked that even people from the region can't be excused from the pilfering or the devastation caused to Niger Delta. I mean, look at it, as far back 2019, the East-West Road wasn't under the Works Ministry. Monies have always been earmarked. And in 2022, the federal government also released about 506 billion. So when people speak about, non-performance, these are things that should also be asked of those who were in charge at that point in time.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's a problem of accountability, really, and maybe some level of transparency. Appointments are essentially based not necessarily based on merit, but on political consideration, on reward for loyalty, on patronage for being my friend, or for because I know you, because you are connected to me, or someone else that knows me is connected to me. These are the considerations that pervade our system, that permeate our system. Not necessarily about your technical competence, or your determination to deliver. And sometimes, again, there are so many interests that are conflicting in the ability of some of these public officials. Maybe this will be in their favor, really. Some interest conflict, some interests prevent them from being able to deliver on some of these projects and projections. And we can never tell. But the shameful thing is that we never ever get to know. It's just shrouded in secrecy. Nobody cares to give us any explanation. They will just begin to speculate, and worry and complain, just like we're doing now. And at the end of the day, we will not be given any reasonable explanation. I remember at the time that when this issue started coming up, Governor, former Minister of Transport, Mr. Amechi, was concerned about the fact that people were criticizing him, for ignoring his own section. And he gave explanation that they were expecting some loan, I think, if I remember correctly, from China, but it's not been delivered or it's not been granted because of some impediments. Was he able to remedy those impediments before he left office? That's another question. But again, we are still speculating. We are not very sure. We need understanding, explanation, clarification, so that we can be on the same page with those who might want to be concerned about criticisms of the civil society.
Mm. Well, at this place, I'd like to thank you for your time, Professor Adeniyi. Thank you, Abiodun Adeniyi. Thank you for your time as always. Well, it's a wrap on the show on Arise Prime Time. Do join me again tomorrow from me and the team here in Abuja. It's goodbye and many thanks for watching.